Today, I want to talk to you guys about some of my favorite solid state and NVMe drives specifically for gaming as well as for content creation. We're going to talk about both. So stay tuned and let's see what you should get. Hey guys, Tiago with Classical Technology here. Thank you for joining me for another video. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, leave a comment below. What type of hard drive, solid state drive, or NVMe drive have you been using lately? Alright, so today let's talk about solid state drives as well as NVMe drives for gaming as well as content creation. We're not going to talk about the traditional hard drives, 5400 RPM, 7200 RPM. Those can typically be great for RAID arrays or even long-term storage, but today we're looking to get the best performance bang for the buck just to make sure that our gaming or our workflow stays nice and consistent. So now we're basically dealing with two types of drives here. First is going to be the typical solid state drive, which is going to be 2.5 inch. Now this, you're going to have to connect both a SATA connector as well as a motherboard connector to it in order to get it running with your system. And then we have an NVMe drive. Typically for an NVMe drive M.2, you're not going to need any cables at all. In fact, they plug directly into your motherboard. And this is assuming you have a little bit newer motherboard that definitely supports M.2 hard drives. You basically just connect it to your motherboard and it's going to take care pretty much of all your power needs, resulting in considerably less cables. And a lot of newer higher end motherboards are actually coming with multiple M.2 slots, including some of the new AMD stuff, some of the new Intel stuff. Some of them let you put up to 4 NVMe drives on the motherboard, as well as even like, for example, the Asus Z490 Apex. You can put one on the motherboard and it has a little riser card where you can put 2 other M.2 slots, which is actually really, really cool. Just in case you have like a water cooled build or something like that, you don't have to take apart the whole system to get at your NVMe drive on your motherboard. You can simply grab that M.2 slot almost as if you would with RAM or something like that, and that's going to make the process considerably faster and easier as you switch stuff out over time. So previously I had recommended the WD Blue, the 2.5 inch solid state drive, and I still recommend this one. You can get a 1 terabyte for like the low hundreds. It's a very nice, stable, fast hard drive. You can put all your games on here. It's worked tremendously well. In fact, I use it as my games backup drive. And as well, if you're going to be doing content creation, it's a very fast drive as well. And for the price, you can get a lot of them or bigger and bigger versions in case you need to have a lot of storage. Back in the day, to get a 1 terabyte solid state drive used to be really, really expensive, but now they've definitely gotten down in price. And if you can stretch your budget a little bit more, you can get something like the Samsung Evo 860. You can also get this in 512, 1 gigabyte. It's a very fast drive. It's going to be a little bit more high end than the WD Blue, but typically you're really not going to notice that much of a difference. So if you can save some money, get the WD Blue. I think that's going to be a fantastic drive, and it's one that I continue to recommend. It's worked great for me, both in gaming and also when I'm backing up files and with content creation. Very fast and affordable drive. I really, really like it. Now let's talk about a couple of my favorite NVMe M.2 drives. The first one is also going to be from Western Digital, and this is going to be from their Black series. Now these you can get all the way down from 256 gigabyte, 512, a terabyte, etc. You can get various sizes. They're priced really, really well. They're very fast. They've been around for a pretty long time now. Keep in mind, Samsung is also going to have sort of their Pro version SSDs. These are going to go up in price. They're just going to give you some more longevity, and if you do a lot of writes and reads, they're just going to be a little bit more robust for certain use cases. But in general, you don't have to worry about that. For gaming, for even, most content creation, any of these drives I think are going to do really well. But definitely NVMe M.2 drives, that's pretty much where it's at nowadays. And I do recommend getting the most storage that you possibly can. I know some of these drives, when they start to get to 1 or 2 terabytes, they do get a little bit expensive, but in general, I think it's better to get the biggest size that you can. That way you can load up all your games on it. You don't have to worry about Windows constantly being right up against that barrier of not having any more space. It's a little more expensive, but a hard drive is something you can use for years and years and move it between builds, so it's definitely not wasted at all. Another set of solid state M.2 NVMe drives I really like. Once again, it's going to be from Samsung. I've had them all the way from the 950, 960, and now we have the 970 Evos. These perform extraordinarily well. They're going to be significantly faster than a similar 2.5 inch SSD. And sometimes, yes, you can notice a difference in Windows. I You can definitely notice a difference when you're coming from a spinning hard drive, like a 7200 RPM hard drive, to an SSD. But when you're coming from a 2.5-inch SSD and you go to one of these really fast NVMe drives, and a lot of these drives, the speed can be maybe 5 or 6 times as much as the 2.5-inch drive, you can definitely feel it in Windows. It goes a little bit faster. Things are slightly snappier. Your games may install faster, but you won't notice it that much. It's just overall with the feel. And of course, if you're going to transfer files between drives that have similar speeds, like let's say if you have 2 NVMe drives, you're going to get much faster speeds than pretty much anything else on the market. So I think it's definitely worth it, because these solid state drives, especially the M.2 NVMe drives, they're going to give you some of the most noticeable improvements in your everyday computing. When you're just browsing around on the desktop in Windows, a CPU or GPU doesn't make as much of a difference, but the drive that you have definitely does. It makes a huge impact on how fast things open when you're transferring files, so it's definitely very worthwhile. So I think for gaming, something like the 970 EVO, and once again they have various sizes, definitely one of my most favorite and reliable fast NVMe drives. Now, once again, if you're doing much heavier content creation, you could also do the 970 Pro. Keep in mind they're going to be a little more expensive, but they are likely going to last longer as well as be slightly faster. But in general, for most uses, gaming, even for most content creation, I think you'll do fine with the 970 EVO. Now, Intel also has a variety of M.2 drives. Some of my favorite for kind of storing files when I really need it to be quick, it's going to be from the 660p collection. Now, I've gotten the 2 terabyte. These often have been on sale for like really good prices. Even the 1 terabyte version I have seen for like the mid hundreds all the way down to $89.99. A lot of times they will have a lot of sales where they discount these considerably. Now, the 660p, it's going to be very nicely priced. You know, the speeds are pretty good, but keep in mind the speeds aren't going to be as fast as maybe like a Samsung EVO. And definitely if you're doing a lot of constant writing and reading to these drives, as well as filling them up, they may reach a bottleneck a lot sooner than something like a 970 EVO Pro that are meant to be more sustained write and things of that nature. So keep that in mind. But I think for gaming, you know, keeping your files on, these drives are very, very fast. And of course, Intel also has a little bit higher end M.2 drives, like their 760p. Now, these across the board are going to be faster, as well as just have like better sustained speeds. So, and then Intel also has their line of Optane hard drives, such as the 900p. Now, the one that I had was PCIe, meaning that it plugged into your motherboard just like a GPU would. It takes up one of the lanes. And now these drives are definitely very fast, but I kind of recommend against them for the most part, unless it's a very specific use case that you know it's going to be better for like your workflow. For gaming, and Intel did say they're supposed to be one of the fastest drives for gaming. It can help a little bit, but the difference is not too noticeable. And one of the biggest drawbacks is that they're going to take a whole spot on your motherboard. A lot of times you may not think this is a big deal, but let's say if you're doing like an M.ATX build or a small ITX build, you're definitely not going to have too much space on your motherboard. And I've had cases where like I wanted to install something else on my motherboard and I couldn't, just because these drives are in there, and they can be a little bit finicky depending on the exact brand motherboard that you install them in. Sometimes you may have to change some settings for Windows to recognize them. So I've had some experiences where they are pretty fast, but they definitely come with a fair bit of headache. So I would just recommend you go straight for an M.2 drive. That way they go right on your motherboard. You don't have any cables. I really think they're going to be the best blend of sort of the performance and price, as well as everyday usability. And then lastly, for those that need a more mobile solution, I definitely recommend the Samsung T7 line of solid state drives. These are going to be portable. They basically connect to your computer via USB-C. You can also connect via the traditional USB. These are very, very fast. The T7 is going to be almost twice as fast as the previous T5. Those are also great if you can get them sort of for a good discount. But if you can find the T7, they're very, very fast. In fact, for a lot of video editing and things like that, there are many creators that actually keep all their files on something like a T7, and you can edit directly off them. You could also keep your games on there. Let's say if you have to go maybe from your house to school or to an office or to a friend's house, you can bring that drive and you can have a lot of stuff on there. Simply connect it to USB. It's definitely a fantastic drive. And of course, it's not going to have the speeds of an M.2 drive that's connected directly to your motherboard, but these are definitely very fast, and they're even going to be faster than most traditional 2.5-inch solid state drive. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll leave links in the description below to all these drives that I talked about.